Now that one of my favorite annual festivals has returned, I have of course been farming hard in the Labyrinth once again. So I thought it would be cool to share my personal favorite lab farming build. I've tried a good few different builds for the lab farming, and this one is, I just always seem to come back to it. It's just so effective, so easy, and it does something that not many other builds can do, which is gives you the ability to tag every mob without killing them, so you don't ruin it for other people, but also it has the ability to bring big DPS when needed, so that when you're fighting the big bosses, you're not spending too much time on these guys and losing out on that sweet gold per hour. So let's jump right in. So this is essentially a modified power quickness DPS Herald build. We're taking advantage of Dragon Stance to passively pulse boons to allies, and Dwarf Stance just because there's a few sources of knockbacks in the lab, especially on some of the bosses, so I can just stability through all of that. It's a very small DPS loss to take over Assassin Stance, but you could take that if you want to and don't mind getting knocked around. The weapons are not super important. You can basically take any power weapons that you prefer. I'm using dual swords and great sword at the moment. You could chuck in a staff in there instead if you wanted it for its Condi cleanse and big CC. Using full berserker stats, sigils of force and air, and relic of speed. If you're running your own squad through the labyrinth, sometimes I find running relic of speed can actually make it a bit too fast and some people will have trouble keeping up. So you may want to use some other relic if that's the case. For most people though, relic of speed is a fantastic pair with this build since it's so easy to give yourself permanent swiftness. Here are the traits that we're taking. Again, almost identical to the standard power DPS quickness herald build, but I've just changed this trait here since we don't want to be giving too much might to everyone when we give them boons so that the trash mobs don't die as fast. Gives more people a chance to tag them. You could also consider taking this trait for a speed boost if you're not using the relic of speed. If you are using the speed relic, then just keep it on core value. So why is this build so good? Well, if you are new to the Labyrinth farm, in a nutshell, it works by running around in circles in a group, tagging as many trash mobs as possible with your magic find boosted as high as you can. This allows you to drop a ton of the trick-or-treat bags, which you can then sell on the trading post. However, you can't hit the trash mobs with high damage builds, or even just medium damage builds, because you'll easily kill them in just like a couple of hits, which means no one else gets the loot and you basically ruin it for everyone else. In the past, this has meant that it's been optimal to run tagging builds that are designed to hit as many mobs as possible with only a tiny bit of damage so everyone can get a tag. But this creates another problem. There are also some big bosses that spawn in the lab, and if you try and kill these with everyone doing tiny damage, they can take a really long time to kill, which means you aren't getting any bags and you're losing out on that gold. However, since a couple of years ago, supporting your allies also gives you credit for things that they kill. So for example, if you give a boon to someone and then they kill something, you also get the loot from what they killed. This means you can actually get all of the loot from the trash mobs without hitting a single thing, while also having the high DPS Unga Bunga in your back pocket for whenever you need it, whenever you're doing the doors or the big bosses to make them go by faster. It's the ultimate 2-in-1 build. However, with this great power comes great responsibility, so let me make this very clear. If you are going to use this build, you cannot touch any of the trash mobs when running around the lab. Your damage is way too high and you will melt them, ruining everyone else's profits. Only attack mobs when you're doing the doors and killing the bosses. If you lack the self-control to stop yourself from touching any of the normal trash mobs, please don't use this build. The other caveat to this build is that it does rely on other people in the squad using normal tagging builds, since if everyone is just giving boons to each other, no one's killing anything, obviously no one gets any loot. So what boons should you pulse to everyone to get support credit? Well, in general, you want to avoid the offensive boons, so the facet of strength that gives might, and the facet of darkness which gives fury, as this will make people do more damage and less players will get to tag each of the trash mobs before they die. The 3 other supportive facets, the facet of light for regen, facet of chaos for protection, and facet of elements for swiftness, these 3 together will slowly drain your energy, meaning you also give another boon, quickness. This does mean that you will eventually run out of energy, so you'll just have to release the chaos facet for a bit. That'll even give you a bit of super speed, which is nice, and continue pulsing the regen and swiftness until your energy recovers before adding the protection again. However, if you want the ultimate passive experience, sometimes I will only pulse regen and protection, or just regen and swiftness. This way, your energy doesn't actually slowly drain, meaning you don't have to fiddle whatsoever with your facets, and all you need to do is just keep moving with the group. This makes it even more brain dead, and in my testing, I haven't found any noticeable drop in gold per hour by not giving quickness and only pulsing a couple of boons. And that'll just about do it. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. Leave any of those questions in the comments, I'm happy to help. And yeah, get out of here, start farming those bags.